You put out a very interesting prediction earlier this week, Mike, at blueandgold.com. A guy we've spent time talking about the last few months, and that is a big time offensive line recruit, Gerby Lambert. Why do you think he might end up with the Fighting Irish?
Yeah, huge prediction here. It's a pretty big deal to predict this kind of talent to the Fighting Irish. Four official visits, and this is basically down to these four schools, Darren: Notre Dame, Boston College, Ohio State, and Harvard. One of I'm sure it's been decades since it's been those four schools as finalists for a prospect. Seriously, I mean, pre-Civil War, I mean, how often is Harvard in there with Notre Dame, Boston College, and Ohio State for a top four? And that kind of goes to show how unique of a young man Gerby Lambert is. 6'6", 290 pounds, from Catholic Memorial in Massachusetts. Academics being very, 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 very important here to Gerby and his family. He was going to go to Penn State this past weekend, canceled that trip, and went to Harvard. Which to me, that's a pretty good sign that, hey, he doesn't want to maybe go to a football factory, which would then also probably rule out Ohio State. Then there's Harvard. You at least want to have some kind of factory for football, though, at your school. Sure, I mean, the NFL will go anywhere for the top players, but, going to go to Harvard. How often do these recruits say about Notre Dame that it's the best of both worlds? That's kind of what you're hoping for here, that that this young man says, hey, I love the football here, and he and his parents agree that the academics here and what he's looking for line up as well. And that's why I put in the prediction. Not only that, hey, this makes a lot of sense, but also just kind of the buzz and talking to folks on the Notre Dame side of things. And Darren, quite honestly, and talking to different, what I call industry sources, other folks who are very tight in following this recruitment as well. I'll talk to one person. This person says Notre Dame, Boston College. The next person says, Notre Dame, Ohio State. This person says, oh, he really liked Boston College and is official there. Next person says not so much. So it's kind of differing opinions on maybe where Boston College and Ohio State stands. And I would assume that Harvard is not a major contender here. Can't say that I know many people plugged in with Harvard football recruiting. But just the feeling is that everyone you talk to believes that Notre Dame is the team to beat here. Yesterday I was talking to a source on the Notre Dame side of things, and the Irish definitely feel like they have the lead here for this elite offensive tackle prospect. So went ahead and logged the prediction. Again, it's not the predictions I do are never, hey, this guy is committing in 2 days. Go ahead and log your prediction. I don't do that. I like them to be a projection of what I believe will happen. It's a prediction very much in the sense of that word. So I like the Irish here. Could they still lose the recruitment? Sure. Could, Boston College is probably the school I'm the most concerned about, Darren, just because there's that close to home factor that I think is real for him. But, Notre Dame is a huge contender. Boubacar Traore, Notre Dame freshman defensive lineman, very good friends with Gerby Lambert, high school teammates at Catholic Memorial. I think that's another huge factor that he could go to Notre Dame and already have a best friend on the roster. So, yeah, I'm rolling with Notre Dame here, Darren.
Yeah, I think the Civil War era, the log cabin bowl was a big thing back then. Harvard and Ohio State, they had some classic matchups back in the day. Hey, I got to ask you about this because Lambert is such a unique talent. Watching the video, he is a massive guy for a high school kid, but his footwork is awfully impressive. Does he project, first of all, to possibly be a left tackle if that's what Notre Dame needs? And is there a chance if he signs with Notre Dame, he would be a top candidate to replace Joe Alt when he ends up in the NFL draft?
Left tackle or right tackle for me, Darren. We saw Blake Fisher start against Florida State as a true freshman. I could see Gerby Lambert doing the same. And Gerby's playing against teams in Massachusetts. Well, I mean, Blake Fisher's played in Indianapolis, so it's not like we're talking about elite talent, and Blake was able to come in just physically. Blake came in ready to go. He had to trim some, a little bit to get to be able to match some quickness, but just so hard to get around Blake Fisher. I honestly think Gerby Lambert, and I said it on your show, Darren, I think Gerby Lambert could start at Notre Dame as a true freshman. If Joe Alt goes, maybe Blake Fisher stays. Maybe Blake slides to left tackle. Gerby could play right tackle, or they both could go, and then he could go after either position. I'd be interested. Gerby doesn't really do many interviews. I'd be interested to kind of hear about what Notre Dame's pitch to Gerby is about potential to start right away. And last thing on this point before we move on, Darren, the name Gerby. I usually a recruit I call by their last name. I call Gerby by his first name because it's just an amazing name. Total side note.
Another prediction that you made this week involves the class of 2025.
Yeah, Darren, like I said with Gerby, projections, and I like Notre Dame's land Justin Thurman. So he is from St. Louis de Smet High School. He's teammates with Christian Gray there. Good friends with Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame. I mean, both of these guys signed with Notre Dame in the 2023 class out of St. Louis. So Thurman's at de Smet Jesuit, right? That's the school name. Transfers, his family moves to Florida. Now he's at Tampa Jesuit. So you got clearly wherever he's going to a Catholic school. I think that he's going to continue to go to Catholic schools in college. That's why I project him to go to Notre Dame. And this is my fifth. 2025 will be, I think, my fifth or sixth recruiting class I've covered with the Fighting Irish. Thurman, I think, is the most Notre Dame kid I've ever talked to. I mean, seriously, the only other school I could see him going to is Stanford. Like, just because of how academic he is, like just how bright, how smart. When you just interact with some kids, they're just what Mike Goolsby would say as a sweetheart of a kid. That's Justin Thurman. So logically, it makes a lot of sense for him to end up at Notre Dame. He visited in mid-June, camped. That checked the box there. The Irish staff really liked him from what I am told. Even our own staff at Blue and Gold that was there. I was not able to attend, but, our own staff thought he was outstanding. And for folks watching on radio, or excuse me, on television, this is, highlights from his sophomore season at de Smet. Big physical kid and ran well at camp. Notre Dame sources feel pretty good here. He visited, because he has the St. Louis connection, being that's where he's from, he's still looking at some of the schools like Kansas and Iowa. I just don't see him ending up at one of those schools. He took a trip to Alabama and camped there in June. We'll see if the Crimson Tide were to offer what he would think about that. But as of now, I have a hard time seeing this kid not end up at Notre Dame.
Mike, growing up about an hour and a half from St. Louis, if there were St. Louis kids that went to Notre Dame, they would stick into my mind just because of being there a lot. But Notre Dame's really hit the jackpot in St. Louis the last few years. It doesn't seem like over my 25 years here that St. Louis has been a major factor in Notre Dame football recruiting, but there's really good football in the St. Louis area, and it seems like Notre Dame has made that area a priority right now.
Well, I mean, let's just think about it. Kyron Williams, Gabriel Rubio, Christian Gray, Jeremiah Love. That's 4 off the top of my head. And I feel Tyson Ford, there's 5. So that's all since the 2019 class. Notre Dame's recruiting in St. Louis. And if you even want to go to the state of Missouri, I mean, you got just Missouri in general, you got Aeneas Williams from Hannibal, small town. So, yeah, Notre Dame is recruiting the heck out of St. Louis. I love to see it. I love St. Louis barbecue. So I love when Notre Dame's in St. Louis. And I get to go eat some good barbecue before I fly out. So for selfish reasons, I love the Irish going into St. Louis. But yeah, the football is pretty good too. And talking about St. Louis, not only do you have the Jeremiah Love thing, Kyron Williams, like Justin Thurman knows Kyron Williams. I believe it's something like the same training facility they work at or something, same trainer. And he's been able to meet Kyron before. And yeah, you see a St. Louis running back go to Notre Dame, then play in the NFL. Like that's something tangible for the young man to see and be like, hey, I could be the next one to do that.